Welcome to the third video of Cost Accounting Elements of Cost by Debit and Credit Online Classroom. This video covers cost units and cost centers, difference between cost units and cost centers, and elements of cost. Now let us see the types of cost units. Cost units can be simple cost unit or a composite cost unit. In the examples, what we said now, for cement we took per ton or per bag. For sugar also per ton or per bag. Then transport, in the case of transport we said per passenger kilometer. In the first instance, that is in the case of cement, it was per ton, only a single unit was used. But in the case of transport, we said per passenger kilometer, a combination of two units. So that is the simple cost unit and the composite cost unit. A simple cost unit measures just one characteristic, such as length or volume or weight. But the composite cost unit is a combination of two simple cost unit. Example, per passenger kilometer, patient day, done kilometer, passenger kilometer, etc. For the costing of products or services, an organization should be divided into departments or branches or sections. Each department or branch or section is known as a cost center. Cost center means a section or department of the business to which cost can be charged. CIMA London defines cost center as a location or person or item of equipment or group of these for which cost may be ascertained and used for the purpose of cost control. So these cost centers are used to accumulate the cost of each section or a department or a process, and it's a location or person or item of equipment, maybe a location or a person or item of equipment where this cost can be ascertained and accumulated. That is for the purpose of cost control. Now let us see the types of cost centers. We know that the industries vary, so the operations also vary. Some are manufacturing industries, some are service industries, like that. So the departments will also change. Now let us see what are the cost centers. Operation cost center. This consists of machines or persons carrying out similar operations. So, a group of people doing a similar operations, it is a cost center. For example, manufacturing business, that production center. Process cost center. It is a center in which specific process or a continuous process of operation is carried out. To convert a raw material, in some industries they need two or more processes to be completed. So each process will be taken as a cost center. Production cost center, it is one which is engaged on regular production. Then service cost center, it is the one which is engaged in rendering services to production cost centers. So these service cost centers, they will give services to the production cost centers. Personal cost center, it consists of a person or group of persons. Impersonal cost center, it consists of a location or item of equipment or a group of these. So in the personal cost center, it is concerned with the person or group of person doing the work. But the impersonal cost center, it consists of a location or item of equipment or a group of these. Like it can be a location or it can be machines or like equipments or group of these. So these are the types of cost centers, that is operation cost center, process cost center, production cost center, service cost center, personal cost center and impersonal cost center. Now let us see the difference between cost unit and cost center. Cost center is a segment of an organization for which costs are accumulated, center to which the costs are accumulated. But the cost unit is a unit of measurement of cost. Cost center, the concept of cost center is used to accumulation and control of cost. So the expenses are accumulated in that center. The concept of cost unit is used to ascertain the cost. Different cost centers may be involved in the production of a product. Different centers, for example, processes, process 1, process 2, like that. A cost unit, a product will have only one cost unit. It can be simple or composite, but only one cost unit. Cost centers are created for assisting the management in the functions of budgeting and controlling. So the expenses incurred there or forecasted to be incurred can be created there, can be accumulated there, and that can be used for assisting the management in functions of budgeting and control. They can budget the expense of each cost center, and by budgeting and by comparing the actuals to the budgets, we can bring a control in that cost center. Cost units are determined not for budgeting and cost controlling. It is only for measuring the cost. It's not for budgeting or controlling. Formulation of cost centers depends upon the nature and techniques of production, processes, size of organization and the structure of organization. We don't have a uniformity in the cost centers. It depends upon the nature and techniques of production. So it may be a unit of production or the processes or the size of the organization. If the size of organization is very big, there will be many cost centers, but if it's a small one, there will be only one cost center, like that, and the structure of the organization. In the case of the cost unit, it is determination of the cost units depends upon the nature of the final product and prevailing trade practices. So that is dependent upon the final product cost. The cost unit to be used is dependent upon the nature of the final product and prevailing trade practices. For example, for distance we use meter, kilometer, like that. For time, hours, minutes, seconds. So it is a trade practice. It is a practice we used to do. So the cost unit is dependent upon the nature of the final product and prevailing trade practices. Elements of cost. Elements of cost are those elements which constitute the cost of manufacture of a product. So for manufacturing, on manufacturing is just converting the raw material into finished product. For that purpose, we need the material. Then to convert this material to finished product, we need labor and some other expenses. So elements of cost are material, labor and expenses. Then this material itself is divided into direct material and indirect material, and labor, direct labor and indirect labor, expenses, direct expenses and indirect expenses. Then these indirect material, indirect labor and indirect expenses as constitutes the overhead. Direct materials. These are materials directly contributing to a product, and those are easily identifiable in the finished product. So we can identify the direct material in the finished product. For example, timber in furniture. For making the furniture, we need timber, and that is easily identifiable also. And some materials which is required to produce the product but is not directly identifiable are there. For example, nails used in the timber industry for making the furniture. That nails, it is not that much easily identifiable. So that is the indirect material. That type of materials are called indirect material. So the materials which be required to produce a product but it's not directly identifiable as the indirect material. Direct labor. Any wages paid to workers who are directly engaged in the production of goods. The workers who convert the raw material into a finished product, they are directly engaged in that production of goods. For example, in the timber, in that furniture industry, the carpenters who work on this timber to convert that to the furniture, the wages paid to these carpenters as the direct labor, and that varies directly with the level of output. Indirect labor is the amount paid to workers who are indirectly engaged in the production of goods. It does not vary directly with the level of output. Some workers will be helping to in this production, but that is not easily identifiable, and it does not vary with the level of output also. Such type of labor is called the indirect labor. And direct expenses, the expenses refers that are incurred by the organization to produce a product. These expenses cannot be easily identified accurately. Material and labor we can easily identify from the finished product, but some expenses are there which we cannot identify easily, but it is a must for production. For example, to bring the raw material from the site to the factory, it's a direct expense. That's a must, but that transportation cost we cannot identify from that product. It is not easily identifiable, but it is a must. That type of expenses, it is the direct expenses. Then indirect expenses are those which cannot be identified with a particular product or job. They include all indirect costs other than the indirect material and indirect labor. For example, indirect expenses are rent, rates, taxes, insurance, depreciation, repairs, maintenance, carriage, etc. Overheads. Overheads are the indirect expenses. Let us say we have the indirect material cost, indirect labor cost, indirect expenses cost. All these together we will call a name overhead. Indirect expenses, indirect labor, indirect material together we will call it as overheads. And these overheads can be identifiable with the cost centers like production overheads, administrative overheads, sales overheads, and distribution overheads. About this we will study in the video about the overheads in detail. Through this video, we have discussed about the cost unit, cost center, then elements of cost, direct material, direct labor, direct expenses, indirect material, indirect labor, indirect expenses. In next video, we will be discussing about the material, direct and indirect. Thank you for your support. Please continue it by subscribing to my channel. Thank you. Thank you very much.